All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report. The town hall session begins right now, but to set the stage for this conversation before I even introduce all my guests here, thousands of tons of waste generated every day in Kenya end up in open dump sites, informal landfills, and indeed in the environment, where it poses environmental and public health hazards. Now, in the coastal region, waste generation is now affecting both land and sea. Edward Chwe has the details of this.
Kwale County, Hanan Mohammed is tending to her passion fruits. She has been growing different crops here organically since 2020. Interestingly, Hanan manufactures the organic products she uses on her farm from seaweed waste that is washed off the Indian Ocean beaches through her venture Sea Earth Organics.
We were looking for organic products, and it's really costly to get organic products. So now we had to produce our own fertilizer. So we opted to do the seaweed fertilizer and vermicompost fertilizer.
Hanan has contracted youth in Mombasa who collected the seaweed waste from the Indian Ocean beaches. Through this process, the recycling of the seaweed has helped to clean up the beaches.
We empower youth and women as well. So we tell them to go do, when they're doing their beach cleanup, we give them incentive to collect for us the seaweed.
When the seaweed arrives at our farm in Msambweni, she embarks on turning it into fertilizer and compost manure.
There's various ways to do the fertilizer. So we ferment it for a number of days, and then we mix it with the plant base and the animal base. And then now the mixture, now it becomes a result of a fertilizer and a pesticide.
Patrick Mtungi, a local farmer in Msambweni, has been using Sea Earth Organics products as both fertilizer and pesticide on his green gram farm.
Ni mbolea ambayo haina kemikali. Ni mbolea ambayo natumia inakuza mumea, na hata hivyo kuna wadudu vile vile katika mumea inaua.
We actually targeting small scale farmers, those farmers who cannot afford the fertilizer that is being sold at the market.
Hanani's waste recycling venture has been a success thanks to the collaboration with waste management sector players, among them the Kenya Climate Innovation Center and the county government of Mombasa.
What we do at Kenya Climate Innovation Center is to support the commercialization of climate innovations. That is to say, we believe that in the fight against climate change, we play at the intersection of innovation and entrepreneurship. Our belief is that solutions to climate change lie within the private sector. But the bigger challenge is how do you ensure that these innovations are commercialized?
We are trying to catalyze the development of the circular economy, promoting recycling, segregation of waste at source, so that enterprises around this sector also get value from the waste that is generated, and as well supporting enterprises in this space.
Hanani looks forward to upscaling and producing more organic products from seaweed waste.
My target is to export my products. Currently we are doing local, but I see myself doing an export, so I'll be very happy to see Sea Earth Organic out there. It will mean a lot.
These passion fruits here are organically grown using products made from seaweed waste, an indication that with proper waste management, we could prevent environmental pollution while at the same time championing for sustainable farming practices. Edward Chwe, Msambweni, Kwale County.
All right, and helping me talk about this conversation on sustainable waste management, I'm a guest here at Mombasa, Tononoka Social Hall. Let me start by introducing our host, Deputy Governor, His Excellency Francis Toya, Deputy Governor in CEC Environment and Governance. Thank you very much for making time. On my immediate left is Felix Magaju, the Director of Programs at KCIC. Thank you very much for making time. Dr. Taiba Hatimi, Founder and CEO Baus Taka is here. Thank you very much for making time. And Samuel Lopokoyet, NEMA County Director of Environment. Thank you very much for making time. And DG, I'll start with you here. At the coast, what are some of the unique waste management challenges faced here at the coast, and how can they be addressed?
Thank you, Trevor. Maybe to start, I need to put a context into the whole problem. you'll appreciate that Mombasa, currently we have a population of almost 1.4 million people. That is census as of 2023. And it is projected that this population is growing at about 3.67%. We generate almost about closely to over 1,000 tons a day across the entire county. And we bring almost to the landfill, that is the dump site in Makirunge, almost about 600 tons. So we have absolutely somewhere around 400 tons that eventually does not get there. One, we need to appreciate within the ecosystem, within the waste space, you'll appreciate that one of the major problems we are facing is the collection of waste is actually done quite informally. When I mean informally is you'll see across our streets in Mombasa, people walking with handcarts carrying sacks of waste. So for us, this is a big problem because the waste sector appears to be slightly informal. And this is contributing largely to the problem we're seeing of illegal dump sites and waste scattered across the entire county. What is our vision as a county?
Yeah.
I think one of our major direction which the government wants to take is to ensure that we are changing the mindset of our people about waste from being a burden to a resource. So there's a mindset that we need to deal with. Two, we are considering that it is important if we have to sort out the problem within the waste chain. One of the things we must begin sorting out the issue of segregation of waste at source. Because currently what is happening is waste is collected at household in a mixed form, and it is brought the way it is to Makirunge. So if we succeed to segregate waste at source, then it means we would have started addressing the bigger problem that was within the value chain. What it means, one will be able to get the recyclables going to the MRFs, the organic waste, which is 90%, going to somewhere it can be composted and it gets converted into manure, and we'll be left with something very, very small to go to the dump site. So our vision, one, is to ensure that we are reducing the amount of waste that gets into the dump site. We are anticipating probably we want to almost reduce it to somewhere to a region of between 10 to 20%. That is the only waste that we must bring to the landfill.
And out of curiosity, DG, how many MRFs do you have here? This is the material recovery facilities.
Currently, I must confirm that the county has only built one. But for us,
is that enough?
For us to be able to operate efficiently, if we are really to convert the circular economy to be something meaningful, we must have at least a bare minimum of 6 MRFs, mega MRFs, where we can bring all this recyclable in for purpose of adding value to the same. Yes.
Let me bring in Felix on this now. Felix, let's talk about the SWIFT program, which you're currently running as KCIC. What is the anticipated long-term impact of that program here in Mombasa? You've had the challenges that the DG is talking about. More than 1,000 tons of waste generated, 600 of it gets to the right points, 400 disappears in between. MRFs, they need more than 6, they have 1. What is the long-term plan and how that the SWIFT program will impact Mombasa, for example?
So thanks, Trevor. So one of the key things that the SWIFT program that KCIC is implementing is, aims to achieve is to create this partnership between, the private sector and the public sector to be able to support the county government in number one, in terms of policy, developing, policy, taking care of those policy and gaps that are within the county, within the waste management ecosystem, number one. And second, It's also now to bring the private sector into this equation because, the county governments do not have that, all that mass in terms of finance to be able to really offer those kind of solutions. And so also supporting the private sector to be able to come on board and look at waste management in Mombasa County as an opportunity then becomes very lucrative. So KCC comes on board to be able to de-risk some of these companies, support them to become formal, and ensure they're bankable. So, and that's why this partnership between KCC and Mombasa County is very critical to be able to support the county to be able to meet its long-term and short-term goals in the waste management ecosystem.
Okay. Speaking of the ecosystem, let me bring in Dr. Atimi on this. Dr. Atimi, you're already running in this waste ecosystem. What are some of the most impactful, innovative waste management solutions that Baustaka has implemented?
Thank you for that, Trevor. So Baustaka Enterprise has implemented two impactful initiatives. One is the Baustaka mobile application. We have a solution, a sustainable waste management solution in Mombasa County through the Baustaka mobile app. The Baustaka mobile app was launched in November 2021, and it was a first of its kind in Kenya. It has 4 major features. One of the features is you are able to streamline waste from source all the way to recycling centers, where you log onto the app and you can book a waste management service on the go. It acts just like Uber. The second feature is you're taught how to segregate your waste at source, which is one of the sustainable waste management practices. So after segregating your waste at source, you can either donate your plastic waste or you can sell your plastic waste for a cash incentive. Now, every time you use the Baustaka mobile app, you accumulate points, and the points can be redeemed for outpatient health services. The third feature is we have a blog where we raise awareness on sustainable waste management practices to the community via the blog. And the final feature is you are able to report illegal dumping of waste, because one of the major challenges in Mombasa County is the illegal dumping of waste. So you just need to register on the app, you take a live picture, and we have a GPS integration into the app. It picks the location, and we know where the waste is, and we contact Mombasa County Department of Environment, we contact the local leaders in the local community and the community women and youth, so that we can come together and go and ensure that we sensitize the community on why you should not be doing this and how to do it correctly, which is sustainable waste management practices, and also to clear out the dump site.
Yeah. How have we dealt with the segregation issue?
So for the segregation in the community, we have to sensitize, and we've been able to partner with Mombasa County Department of Environment and the Mombasa Plastics Prize to sensitize door-to-door sensitizations on how you segregate your waste. Now, there are other households which are low-income community households. They don't have enough space for the 3-bin system. So we donate gunias, which is the waste bags, so that they can actually have them in the households. They put the recyclables in one gunia, and then they can get onto the app or a USSD platform, or come to our plastic waste segregation and collection center. You bring us that and you're paid a cash incentive.
Okay. Let me bring in Samuel on this. Samuel, as NEMA, how are you dealing with this issue of illegal dumping? Because it keeps coming up several times.
Trevor, thank you for that question. Just to put in a nutshell, first, I thought it was very important for people to know what the government is doing on sustainable waste management. Currently, the government is implementing the 4th medium-term plan for the Vision 2030. And this is what people call a bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Now, this bottom-up agenda has a whole section on sustainable waste management. And we'll find whatever we are discussing here is in this agenda. This agenda talks about green jobs, creation of green jobs and retaining these green jobs. It also recognizes, as the DG has said, that the backbone of waste management in Kenya is with the youth, the individual pickers and the youth groups, the CBOs and the volunteers. The only problem is that they do not have an economic model for their business. So what the government wants to do is to transform these young people into SMEs. And once they become SMEs, they can compete for funding and training and research from the government and also from other developmental partners. And once that is done, they will be able to compete in same par with other economic SMEs in other economic sectors of this country. And that what will bring, it will bring that job to be very dignified. What the bottom-up also says is that It gives the commitment by government to develop MRFs. It also gives commitment by government to stop plastic pollution. And it also gives government commitment to enable these extended producer responsibility organizations to be in place. So why am I saying that? So that people can align their businesses or whatever they are doing to the bottom up so that they can get the full services of what the government is offering. But as we talk about waste, especially enforcement of waste, in Nema we are not always about hitting pull the stick enforcement. We have programs where we do awareness trainings, that is to the general public, and to the waste pickers we usually have trainings. Mombasa, in my office, have already done 2 trainings the last financial year, and that is for the Kadogo market. Yeah. For the industries, we have the environmental management tools that we are using. That is environmental audit, and we are looking at the environmental management plan for these companies so that we see what is their transition year to year as they better themselves. We also do a lot of research, Trevor. Mm-hmm. We have done research in urban farming. We have gone to abattoirs. We have seen the rumens of these animals, and we have seen the economic loss that is accrued to these animals ingesting plastic. Deputy Governor will also attest to you that through research, when, like right now, Mombasa is raining, and if there is garbage that has been thrown out into the public, we will find cases of a vector-borne disease called chikungunya and nyongo-nyongo. They are very prevalent, especially when there is, you see even Daktari is shaking her head. Mm. So this research informs policy and informs also the public. Okay. Right now, the thing that is hot on heels is the microplastics that we are currently researching on. We have a lot of microplastics we have discovered in our bloodstreams and in our organs. So that one will also sensitize people to the public awareness. Okay. And lastly, when all else fails, we use the stick.
When all else fails.
We use the stick.
Okay. Let me bring in DG on this. DG, let's talk about policy domestication. No, at the national level, sustainable waste management policies are fairly at an advanced stage. But how do you domesticate that and ensure that Mombasa County, with its unique challenges, also is aligned to the policies?
Thank you. First, I want to confirm to the viewers who might be listening to me in Mombasa that there exists the Mombasa County Solid Waste Management Act that clearly borrows from the national legislation. So in terms of domesticating, we have already done that. We have a law existing that clearly stipulates what, for example, the collector will do, what is the responsibility of the citizen, what is the responsibility of all the actors. So the law already exists. But I think the biggest problem Mombasa is facing today is one, I think, for a long period of time, the residents of Mombasa have always thought the responsibility of managing waste is purely a government responsibility. Citizens don't realize that the issue of waste management is their responsibility. And I think we are getting to that stage that we need to enhance awareness at household. Because I believe today, if we are to get it right at the household, get our citizens to understand that the issue of segregation can be done at the household, then it means the entire value chain in the West is sorted. Because once the citizens are aware that this is the beginning of the entire improvement of the value chain, then we shall be making a bigger step. But for government, what is important is we are looking at the opportunity that lies ahead. We are seeing that waste has the capacity to employ a lot of youth and women. And as government, we are already prioritizing on some of the incentives we want to put in place. Among the things that the government intends to put in place shortly is to start buying tuk-tuks for youth groups. This will enable them now to get into places where we cannot bring big trucks to go and collect, because as I've told you, we have sort of like 400 tons that just disappears.
Yeah.
And we believe most of this waste is disappearing in places where we can't access. So by bringing some innovative ways, trying to bring some kind of equipment which can get into places we can't access,
yeah,
I think this will accelerate our ability to get waste out. Lastly, we are already working very closely, and this is something new. We are attempting to domesticate also some of the international conventions.
Yeah.
For example, the MAPOL. The MAPOL Convention literally places standards on how we handle marine waste. As you know, this is a port city. So most of the time we receive a lot of waste, which vessels come with. And sometimes we are not too sure of exactly how we will handle such kind of waste. So currently the county is working very closely with KMA and Kenya Ports Authority together with NEMA with a view to see how do we handle marine waste. For example, ballast water, that's water that is filled into a vessel to enable it remain afloat as it moves from one port to another, is normally water which is unsafe if it gets contaminated with seawater.
Yeah.
So as a county, we are now working very closely with NEMA to see how, and together with KPA and KMA, how do we manage that kind of waste.
Okay.
So that's part of what we are doing as county.
All right. I'd like to open the floor for questions and concerns here, because we are talking about an industry that is $54 billion worth. But how do you take advantage of it? How do you ensure that some of that money is in your pocket? What are the concerns that you have, and what are the suggestions you have that can be addressing those concerns? So I'll come to you in just a short while. Raise your hand and I'll pass the microphone to you and just stand and raise the concern, comment or question. But let me bring in Felix first on this. Felix, that exact same question that I want the audience to address is the same one that I'll ask you. What are the big obstacles when it comes to achieving sustainable waste management, and how can we take advantage of this and build an entrepreneurial system where people benefit? And the DG is saying that waste management is not just a government responsibility, but do the people have the incentive to take part in the waste management ecosystem? And is it about incentives or penalties? What will make people actually segregate at the household level? But let's start with the obstacles that you see.
So thanks, Trevor. I think there are a number of opportunities in the waste management sector, for both women and youth and everybody else in the population. But I think first and foremost, when you look at, the issue of waste and the challenges in our sector, number one, Dr. Hamid talked about awareness creation. Remember, she's running a commercial enterprise. That is, at the end of the month, she has to be able to look at the numbers, which must be able to make sense, for her. And the same case, the DG talked about, 400 tons of waste per month that cannot be accounted for, so to speak. And that's where, for me, I see a very big opportunity, not only just for nonprofits like KCAC, but also other ecosystem players to come on board. One, to support issues touching on awareness creation, to be able to really make sure that everybody in the ecosystem within Mombasa County and other counties really are aware of what needs to be done at the housing level. Of course, that requires money. And the moment that you roll that amount of money to a private sector enterprise, they may not be able to recover that cash, in the long run. And that's why you need, non-state actors to be able to come on board and de-risk these commercial enterprises in the waste management sector, but also support the county government to be able to undertake some of these, activities. And so back to your question, Trevor, in terms of challenges, first of all is, is awareness creation that requires very innovative approaches to be able to take care of. Number two is about, the partnership between the, the county government and the private sector. And I'm talking about, commercial enterprises like what, Dr. Hatimi is reading. To set up an enterprise in the waste management sector requires finance, and also it requires skills. Now, one, in terms of money, I mean, the early stage companies in the waste management sector, they are facing a lot of challenges. Number one, chief among them is also government regulation. Sometimes it's stifling, the mushrooming of these, early stage companies in that sector, because a number of them, they are feeling, the government is putting in place laws that are really stifling the growth and development of early-stage companies who are really becoming very innovative, coming up with a very innovative, like, for example, what Dr. Ali is talking about. And that also now means if she has to be able to really handle in government agencies like NEMA, you need someone to come on board and make these two partners, come together. Some few minutes earlier, the two of them, like two friends were talking when we were just, behind the camera, and you would hear the kind of,
you can reveal what they're saying, even though it was behind the camera.
Yeah, and she has been in the waste management sector for quite some time.
Yeah.
And some were there, came out very strongly in terms of telling her, what the government is doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah.
Not because, we want to kill the sector, but also to put some kind of regulations in the sector. So you can imagine the issue of awareness creation, even for people who are in the waste management sector, yeah. The way they perceive regulations and all those kind of things. So you need someone and go between, to be able to do that. So I think I'll look at it in terms of one, concession of finance, second, awareness creation, and that also the willingness of these partners to be able to come together. So somebody, a middle person, has to come on board and support and risk and ensure that the conversations have taken place.
Okay, Dr. Atimi, is that the main challenge? That the policies don't seem to favor startup businesses?
Yes, it's one of the major challenges that we face. In fact, we have the double taxation, where when you want to start, for example, right now, Baustaka is at the scaling stage, and we have set up a collection center in Old Town, and now we're setting up another one in Likoni, and we don't have favorable policies. And also with the double taxation, we, as an enterprise, it's really hindering our growth.
Okay. Yes. Samuel, what is your response to that? How do you ensure then that you want, on one side, garbage to be collected in a sustainable waste management proper way, but on the other side, the people who are willing to do it are crying that the policies do not favor them at all?
Yeah, I think, Trevor, a lot of effort goes into making our laws and policies. I don't think the government just wakes up and makes these laws. They are there for a particular purpose. And they have to be implemented the way they are. The issue is, when you look at it as NEMA, first, are we protecting life? Are we protecting environment? Are we protecting property? Those are irreducible minimums. And that is why those laws are there. But far beyond that, I think the biggest challenge that we are facing as government is what we call the street-level bureaucrats, because these laws were made with the public at hand. There was public consultation. So what happens when the junior-most officer meets the public or meets a business person? What is his attitude? Is he explaining these laws properly? Because if he does not do that, it will look like harassment. Or it look like maybe he's going to collect money, it's becoming corruption. Does he understand these laws to be able to guide the public, to be able to guide business? That is something that we really would need to work on as governments and for these street-level bureaucrats. I always say law is there to protect life, to protect health, and protect property and environment. We need to follow these things. But overall, once we do the reducible minimums, we have what we call compliance assistance programs that we do undertake. We don't tell somebody be perfect like somebody would be perfect as in Europe. But once we can protect health, we can protect environment, we can protect property, that is the most reducible minimums. Then we say, how can we assist you now comply slowly and to be able now to have your business up and running?
Okay. Before I open the floor to the audience, DG, do you see a disconnect when it comes to policy compliance?
One thing I need to make it clear, Trevor, is this. Waste has a cost. To manage waste, there's a cost. As government today, the county government of Mombasa, we are literally lifting from household every day, and it's not monthly. I need to correct. It's not monthly. We are lifting closely to about 600 tons every day to bring to Makirunge. And there's a heavy cost in this. The employees who have been employed, who work in the streets to clean the streets, there are those who are picking this waste from household and all that. So one thing I need to make it clear, and this must be clear to Kenyans, that waste has a cost, and the public should be ready if they want their streets to be clean and for them to have a clean environment, they should be ready to pay a certain cost. That's one. Two, of course, in terms of compliance, there must be the legislative framework. The law must be there, policies must be there to allow this thing to work. It will be difficult for you to compel people, for example, to segregate waste at source. But now as government, we are thinking, and this is one of the things I was just whispering to my fellow panelists, that maybe it might be a good idea for the county to say, we'll not accept mixed waste at Mwakirunge, to force people to start sorting at household. Because that's a compliance issue. If I stop at the end and say I'm not receiving your waste, sort it at household, then people will start sorting their waste at household. So we need to start making our people understand that the issue of waste management, particularly in Mombasa, has a bigger effect to tourism. Because this is a tourist town and a city. So if we don't manage our waste well, it's getting into the sea. Tourists will say we don't want to come to Mombasa because the beaches are dirty. So how irresponsible we get is going to affect literally everything. So that's all I need to pass it across, because sometimes people feel it's a lighter issue, but it's not.
But DG, is it a matter of having more incentives so that people can segregate their waste at source, or is it a matter of having more penalties so that people feel like if I don't segregate at source, I'll be in trouble? Which one will work best?
For me, I think we need to incentivize. Penalties might not work. We need to incentivize. Like, for example, I was saying, if as government we decide and say we are not going to accept any more waste that is mixed in Mwakirunge, of course, I'm not punishing anybody. I'm literally only telling you, start segregating at household. I've not imposed any penalty, because I'll be saying, you go back with your waste, go sort it out.
Wouldn't that lead to illegal dumping?
Precisely. Maybe it would, maybe it might not, because you need to appreciate, Trevor, that we need to create some awareness at the household level. There are two things I think Dr. has mentioned about. And I think for us, we are also thinking in terms of exactly what we need to do moving forward. One of the things we want to start awareness campaigns at ward level. We want to start putting what we call village environmental committees, where now people at local level, the communities, now start seeing waste from a different perspective. Because we believe that sometimes it is good to sensitize the people more before you start using heavy penalties as a last resort. So I think we need to find some leverages, midway, some incentives. How are we incentivizing the public to get into this? And I buy the idea, like Dr. was suggesting, that like Baustaka, what they are doing is when people bring, for example, plastic, there's a small incentive they provide. So these are things that would encourage the public to get in. But of course, you wouldn't expect the government to start giving people money. It might not sound right. But of course, we are also considering some of those ways of incentivizing the public to start segregating at source.
All right, let me open the floor for questions and comments. By a show of hands, how then do we change this taka to cash, they say? Who has a comment or question? Let me see by a show of hands. Yes, where's the microphone? Let's start with the back there or right here in front. Yes, sir. Start with your name and then state your comment or question.
My name is Sultan Dan. I'm an environmental activist, communication expert, and a youth leader in Mombasa. Bwana DG, I've heard you say that we want to start from the grassroots. And we realize that we are focusing on this generation. But one thing that we also forget is that from the family, I believe if the county would be able to try and inculcate within the schools, the colleges, even from as low as even in nursery, the ECDs, whereby children can be taught through the partnership with the county and other stakeholders on this important issue of waste management. Because if you have a child and he comes home and he has been taught in school that you are not supposed to dump this thing somewhere, they will always tell you on your face that, Daddy or Mommy, why are you doing this? We were told this is wrong. So that is also important. The other issue is we understand as among the factors of production, energy is one of them, and it's very costly. As a county, what are the most viable technologies and strategies that you have come up with to help effectively convert waste to energy in Mombasa, considering that the availability of resources? So if we can have some of these waste converted to energy, it can help also bring the economy. Thank you.
All right, I'll take another comment or question, and then DG, you can just write them down and answer. I see there are two more. Yes, there's a microphone there. Yes, madam.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm called Cynthia Mabel from Mombasa County. Okay. My concern is this. If you practice the waste segregation, it's a very good idea. And have you thought about that waste handler who uses the guinea bag? Is he going to do extra work in carrying the plastic, the organic and everything? Or are you going to help them, maybe buy them tuk-tuk, or what are you going to do? Because it's going to be a very big heap of work.
Okay. So waste handler, workforce, and workload. And you'll answer any of these questions. Let's take a third one and then come to you. Yes.
Hello. My name is...
It's all right. Go ahead.
My name is Idi Mohammed. I'm the chairman of Likoni West Recyclers Cooperative Society Limited.
Yes.
I have two questions to the DG. My first question is, I personally have been in this sector for almost 15 years. But how Baustaka started as a waste manager and how we have started in Likoni as groups, there are two different perspectives. We started as volunteers out of passion and love for the environment. And we are doing the waste management we were providing waste management services from the households. And whatever we are getting, very little. To expect that we see this sector, a $1 billion shilling sector, and how we can tap into it without the help of the government is so difficult. Now, Bwana DG, as the county government, how are you planning or how are you assisting or helping these groups from Likoni to tap in this $1 billion shillings sector? Question number 2. Very soon, there will be a lot of activities in the Dogoto Kundu Special Economic Zone. And currently, the county government is struggling to manage the 1,000 tons of waste generated daily. With the upcoming of the Special Economic Zone, the amount of waste generated in Mombasa County will mostly double, triple. What are your plans to handle this situation?
Okay. Let's take a final one here, then I'll give you a chance. And also, my panelists, you can jump in at any given point once the DG addresses the questions directly. Yes.
Thank you very much, Trevor. My name is Susan Omingo. I'm the chairperson of Pwani Circular Economy Association, an umbrella body for the waste actors in the coast region. My question actually is to Bwana DG. And you've rightly mentioned that we have only one MRF in Mombasa, which to the best of my knowledge is not yet operational. And you've also rightly mentioned that we need 6 MRFs at least, which I suppose you're referring to at least having one in each sub-county. So my question is, what plans does the county government have, one, in operationalizing the one MRF that's already built up, and also what plans does the county government have to ensure that each of the 6 sub-counties has an MRF? And on the same note, we have the waste actors already putting up their own mini MRFs in their different ways in the different sub-counties. So in connection to the point that the KCIC director has mentioned of the support that they are giving to the waste actors and the SMEs in collaboration with the county government, how can your government tap into this to ensure that the mini MRFs that we as the waste actors are trying to set up, and of course these actually are looking at all sectors or all segments of the wastes, because we have those that are doing the plastics, the paper, and we also have those who are also setting up the composting plants for the organic waste. So how is your county government planning to support us as the waste actors to be able to tap into this and be able to also pocket some of these $54 million, you know? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to them. DG, there's a lot of questions. Let's start with Sultan. Dan, you'll also jump in as a panelist.
Let me appreciate that you can see everybody seems to be focusing more on government. What is government doing? What is government doing? But I'm going to flip it at some point, and somebody will be able to see what can the private sector also do. But in a short while, I'll respond. Let me start with the issue of
institutionalization of sustainable waste management,
or
starting from a young
more
age.
In terms of creating that awareness at household level through the children. We are just about to roll out a competition. In fact, Trevor, one time I was visited by some students from a private school here in Mombasa. They came to my office and they told me, DG, we are here, we want to partner with the county government of Mombasa. We want to go and distribute bins, waste bins, in Kachonjo. This is a private school. So when I was listening to them, they told me, you know, this is a project in school we've been asked by our teachers to do, and we are required to give a feedback after the end of that project. On that day, I remember I called one of my technical person in the office and I said, there is an opportunity here for us to begin sensitization in schools. And I can confirm here, immediately after we had put our head together, KEPRO came in. KEPRO. It's a team that involves most of the producers, the people who produce packaging material, which we consider to be part of the waste. Yeah. So they came in and said, we are willing, DG, to support a competition in a school to promote segregation of waste. So currently part of our plan is to roll out a competition, not in private schools, but in public schools, because we believe public schools is where low-income children go, and they have no opportunity to have this information. So that's one of the things that we are doing. On the side of waste to energy, I want to tell the person who has put forward this idea. Yes, it is part of the idea all over the world that you can literally convert waste to energy. But we did a study, Trevor, together with the European Investment Bank. They actually funded a study for the last 18 months. And this was basically to understand the characterization of waste we are generating in Mombasa. And what we discovered was 90% of the waste is purely organic. So this is something you cannot put for waste to energy. Instead, you can convert this into what? Into composting and do manure. So if it is 90%, then what is left? There's about, I think, 4 to 5%, which is combustible. Combustible, these are the things now which you can burn and generate energy. And these are some of the few things we are now talking to Bamburi, because it's a small quantity. So in view of the fact that people are suggesting that we go waste to energy, I think this will not be viable because the amount of waste we are generating is too little. So I will say to the negative that for now, it might not be the idea to go for waste to energy, because in the world, it has proven that it is not working. Ethiopia is an example. Ethiopia went into it and it has literally collapsed because they are not able to generate enough waste to actually support the waste to energy plant. On the issue of...
Cynthia asked whether the waste segregation will then increase the workload for the waste handlers. That was Cynthia.
I didn't get it.
Cynthia asked how whether the waste segregation will then increase the workload for the waste handlers, and how can that be addressed?
We have looked around the ecosystem, and as I've said earlier, Trevor, according to our assessment, most of the waste pickers are handling this work informally. It is informal. And I said earlier that part of what the county government intends to do, we are now at the point we want to organize youth groups into CBOs at a village level. Once we have identified them, we are working together with some partners. There are partners who are helping us in terms of sensitization, in terms of registering them. And one of the things we are planning to do is once we are sure that these youth groups have specific households, they have data of household where they are collecting, then one of the things we want to do is to give them tuk-tuks. We believe tuk-tuks will be able to get them in places where it is not accessible. But at the same time, in terms of workload, you know, tuk-tuk is something mechanical which would be of great help to most of the youth who are actually doing this work manually.
Okay.
On the community role, I think moving forward, for us to succeed in the issue of waste management in Mombasa, we'll have to make the community be the drivers. At the moment, government and other players are the drivers. And we are not going far with it because we've left the community behind. We are the ones ahead. So they believe this is purely the work of government.
But ED is wondering how you're going to incorporate the Likoni groups that are already dealing with waste.
Who?
ED. ED asked about the Likoni groups. And how
yes. We've worked with the group. In fact, in the pilot project, I want to make reference particularly of the Likoni team. We did a pilot project again, courtesy of this work of European Investment Bank. And the pilot we did in Likoni, we literally took bins to households that are purely low-income area, because Likoni is a low-income area. And the idea was basically to test if we are to roll out the 2-bin system or the 3-bin system, will the low-income earners be able to take up that service? And what we got from the community, and I'm happy my brother is here, we were surprised to realize that the community is appreciating the service in Likoni. The only challenge that lies there is now the community inability to pay a certain amount of money for waste. The amount of money we believe high-income areas will pay is totally different from the amount of money low-income areas will pay. And for purpose of making this work sustainable, we need to have a certain figure that is standard, because there's no way you can be charging one area a higher figure and then you charge another area a lower figure. That can't work. So it is something that we're really looking into, but I would be encouraging the youth groups to get into the waste business, because I think there is an opportunity. Lastly, I want to talk about the issue of the role of the private sector. Currently, we are seeing in Mombasa, there are almost like 40 private companies that are already collecting waste in Mombasa. And we have also made an assessment, because we keep records at the dump site. Almost about 120 tons is actually brought by private companies. So we believe that there is already an indication that Mombasa market is ready for the private sector to get in. I think maybe they might not be sure of what are the policy arrangement inside on the side of government to allow this investment to come in. But we have now started engaging the private companies to see what kind of incentives do we provide, both at the household and also at the dump site, to encourage them to get into the waste space, because we believe there's an opportunity.
There's a question from Susan in terms of the plans you have to operationalize the MRF and how you're going to ensure that the other 6 sub-counties MRFs are also built.
We did the MRF sometimes in 2019, 2020, if I'm not wrong. The only challenge I think that has made the MRF not to be operationalized, I think, is on the issue of the equipment. We need to put the equipment in. There were equipment that were brought by the national government, but I think the part of the equipment was not complete. So we are still working with the national government to see how do we make that MRF operational. But I don't think one MRF will be able to solve our problem, because the MRF that we have currently has no capacity to handle the entire waste that we are collecting from the island. So we need to have at least some other mini MRFs. And this is where I believe the private sector needs to start looking at the opportunity, because they are the ones who are carrying waste at household. They have their own yards. Why can't they convert their own yards into mini MRFs? Because they're the ones collecting the waste. If you collect waste and it's, you have wet waste and dry waste, you can bring the dry waste and start recycling in your yard. And by doing so, you'll be making additional money out of it. And this is one thing that I've seen in most of the private companies that are operating in waste. They don't have their own mini MRFs. Yet their own people who are handling that waste where they're collecting from the household would eventually take part of those recyclable and they'll be selling to third parties using their own vehicles. So I've been wondering, why don't they sit and think whether they can be able to start their own MRFs? And by doing that, I think they'll be getting some money out of it. So mine is to encourage the private sector to see that this is not the responsibility of government alone to put MRFs, but also the private sector have an opportunity to get there and set up MRFs.
All right, Dr. Atim, I see you taking a lot of notes there. How then, as a private sector player yourself, what more would you like to see so that more private sector companies like the one you own can come up? Because Edie here has talked about the Likoni groups. They are there already trying to do their part, but how do they scale up to your level?
I think Bostaka has been able to scale up really quickly because we have collaborated with a lot of other players in the waste management sector. So for ED, for them to actually scale up much faster, they also need to ensure that they look for other private sector players who they can collaborate with so that they can scale up, right? So for Bostaka Enterprise, scaling up, one of the challenges where we've encountered in waste management right now is that when it comes to collaboration with the government, we've tried to reach out to county government to see whether we can go into public-private partnerships, but it has not worked because of maybe we're still a startup. So when you are a startup, you actually, people see you as not being able to do the work. Another challenge that we have actually gotten is that we've encountered is that as a woman in a male-dominated sector, we've not been able to scale. But when we collaborate with other women groups in the community, more people give us credibility because there is quite a few of us together. So I think what the Likoni cooperative recyclers can do is look for other groups that have reached maybe doing much more than what you're doing right now, collaborate with them, and that way they can go and scale.
So collaboration is
yes,
the key.
Collaboration is key.
And this is what Felix said the SWIFT program is meant to do. What successes have you seen, and how can that be implemented to help the likes of ED to scale up?
Yeah, well, in the spirit of partnership, Trevor, one of the things that I wanted to tell the DG, he mentioned about, supporting, rolling out a program to support, the early stage, the primary schools and maybe high schools. KCSE will be willing to support you on that and learn that competition and see what can come out of that. That's number one. Second, there's the issue of the Likoni group. I think right now we are supporting 5 companies out of the 40 that the DG talked about, and actually we are financing them this year. And so we'll be happy actually maybe perhaps to, out of the arrangements that we have under SWIFT, we can look at how can we be able to support maybe between 5 and 10 groups, train them, make them viable to be able to tap into the financing opportunities that are coming in the ecosystem. And that means then we can be able to, bring more companies to be like what, Dr. Atimi is doing, in a company. So we'll be happy to perhaps select with the government of Mombasa between 5 and 10 more companies and then groups, so to speak, and then see what can be done. I think the issue of and that talks about even the training for the people who are doing, waste, down there. Yeah. I think those people, for them to become companies and for them to become investable companies that can be able to grow, they need a lot of capacity building. They need a lot of exposure, to be able to really understand what people like Dr. Atimi have done. Will be willing to partner with the county government of Mombasa to really support them in the spirit of partnership and ensuring that the private sector has played a very critical role. And that is what the SWIFT program is all about in terms of identifying those actors in the waste management ecosystem, building their capacities, and also financing them. Because just training companies is not the head game. Yeah. Is ensuring that you have put in them systems, you have supported them financially in terms of capex and opex financing for them to start growing and scaling up. So that's the promise that we give the county government of Mombasa in terms of supporting the people in the waste management sector to be able to scale. Yeah.
And Samuel, as we talk about some of these things, we need to be a bit more practical. Yes. So when you talk about segregation of waste at source, take, for example, an informal sector where somebody is living in either a slum or something. So do they have the capacity, first of all, to segregate waste? Do they have the resources to segregate the waste? And how will that collection look like? So say somewhere in a slum area. So will the collection trucks come at separate times? Do you give them separate bins? What happens, practically speaking?
I think, Trevor, what I'd say is baby steps, because even us as government, as NEMA, we recognize some challenges of demographics and maybe economic differences. You will see that we have developed guidelines both for clean MRFs and dirty MRFs. It's not dirty per se. When you say a dirty MRF, is an MRF which is there when the waste comes already mixed. You will find what Dr. is doing in a business, that is a clean MRF. It handles all the plastic, and maybe if she expands to metal, to e-waste, you will find it is very structured and very clean, that every waste fraction is there. So right now, as we do understand our economy right now and the way we live, so there is this possibility of having a dirty MRFs that we still try and segregate waste at that particular point in time. Yeah. And that, you see, like a clean MRF can be put inside the town. Even actually the MRF that Deputy Governor is talking about is in his office, next to his office. So that is a clean MRF. But we still need the dirty ones because of either our physical planning and everything. But what we always say is that we need to start somewhere. Okay. Baby steps.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let me take another round of questions and concerns. There's so many hands going up. There's so many hands. We'll take quick 5 first. Okay, just state your name and your question. Try to keep it just one question back there. There are quite a number. You already have the microphone. Yes, let's start.
My name is Mitsuchi Bakari Momtoa, and I have 3 questions or things to follow up. First goes to NEMA. The issue of EPR. Because let us agree, all of us, that the major things that identify our environment are diapers. We have a lot of diapers whereby they are not recycled. And yet, up to this moment, we don't know how to go about it. So there was an issue was to be discussed with the national government and the other stakeholders about the EPR and product responsibility. Please let us know about that. The second one goes to Bauza Taka. You do a lot of segregation, but unfortunately, we have few segregation bins within Mombasa. We want to see them more, especially in the crowd places like Likoni Ferry, around town center and other places. Not only at Mamangina and around the governor's office. That's not the only place that I want to see them. I want to see them all over Mombasa so that more garbage can be collected wisely. And the third one goes to Mr. DG. please, the issue of tuk-tuk, I see it's like not workable, because these hand-cut people, takataka, they help a lot. Why don't we try to start by motivating them, giving them PPEs, some intensives, and see how much we can go? Because tuk-tuk itself, it has a lot of expenses, diesel, mechanical, and once it is broken, it takes time to repair. So the hand-cut, it's only the tire and the wood, it goes. So please let us start with these hand-cut people before we go to tuk-tuk. We see the impact, because also the hand-cuts can move in the streets.
Okay.
Last but not least, anybody can take it. Let us have the collecting points of garbages, because we have talked about the slum areas like here around Chuda. I don't know if those people can get segregation bins, but if they have a collection point, it's better. Those hand-cut people can help to do segregation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bakari. Kindly keep it at one question. There's so many of them. Yes.
Okay, good evening.
Yes.
I'm Simon Odera from Airport Environment, a CBO. So my question goes direct to Director of Environment, Samuel. It's good that you mentioned about the solutions, some of the solutions to organic waste and some recyclable materials that can be recovered to be recycled. So there's this thing, Pampas. What are some of the structures, plans, and projects that you put in place to curb this menace? Thank you.
Okay. Diapers, yes. Go ahead, quick.
My name is Boy Jumamdigo from Timbwani Ward in Likoni. First, I would like to say this. In Likoni, from Timbwani, it's the highest populated ward in Mombasa County. So I expect from a ward, I have 15% of the waste coming from Timbwani Ward. Households, they do pay, but little amount of it. So per household, let's imagine if the landlord can take care of the sewage system of his house, what about his waste? I think the county can venture in, and the landlord should be responsible of his waste. That's one. Two, I think it's high time by Deputy Governor to empower the youth on organic waste management. For instance, 60% of the waste are organic. So we need black soldiers fly. That's a mode of using the organic waste. Second, decomposition of the organic waste. So I think those two can help us.
All right. Thank you. Yes, you have the microphone back there.
Okay. Good evening.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Peter Mchombo from Topanga River Conservancy, CBO. I have a question directed to Director Nema. One of the questions is, of all the economy-driving sectors, circular economy isn't one of them because of it has not been recognized by the Labor Ministry. So I would like to, as NEMA is a governing body, I would like them to talk with the Labor Ministry so that it is recognized. Another question is, those we have the innovators doing resource recovery are not happy. They are not happy because their product will not be is not certified after they have innovated them. So my question is, how is NEMA doing this to ensure that the KEBS and other certifying body are ensuring that whatever anything that comes from the West is being accepted by those certifying bodies. Thank you.
I think I believe I'll only be able to take just two more, and you already have the microphone, just the two of you. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my name is George Mwakio from Youth for Sustainable Development, Mombasa chapter. I have heard Bwana DG talking about to manage waste is costly, and I'm speaking from climate perspective as a climate champion. I believe waste management is one of the ways to curb climate change because waste is one of the factors which emit gases, the greenhouse gases. And I think Mombasa County is the recent county to have implemented the climate action plan, and I think there is a program for FLOCA which usually give the local community to come up with projects or ideas so that it can be implemented by the FLOCA. So I think my question is, how far is the implementation of the FLOCA program in County Government of Mombasa? Thank you.
Okay. Last question back there.
My name is Rocky.
Yes. Go ahead.
My name is Rocky from Human Protection and Justice Organization. I have some 3 questions here. Number 1, the DG has talked about helping the CBOs that is working around solid waste management and collection. Now, looking ideally at the cost of registration for an organization to collect the solid waste is very expensive. How are you supporting this, and how do you think it can work? Number 2, we are seeing that the landing zones where solid waste are dumped, basically the Mwakirunge, are in crisis. The parcels of land are disappearing in the hands of the community, and we are planning to use this place for dumping for quite some times. Where are we going to get land to do the dumping? And the last question, you said that the best way to deal with solid waste is by segregation. We are again seeing the county government itself. Look at the people doing cleaning at the roadsides. They are doing cleaning and carrying the solid waste, solid waste the way they are. They're not segregated. As a good example, why are they not capacitated? And how are they going to be capacitated so that we, as the people in the community, can copy as a good example when we take a case of monkey see, monkey do? Thank you.
All right. I believe that's the only time we'll have to answer those questions really fast. So let's start with the NEMA.
Thank you, Trevor. I think I was asked 2 questions,
yes,
and all of them were asking about the diapers, so I'll just combine. I think, Trevor, the issue of diapers and sanitary pads or towels is actually a very sensitive subject right now. What we aspire to do is, as I say, economically, there's a big difference. People who actually work in formal sectors in offices will find that these sanitary pads or the sanitary towels are being collected by very specific companies, and there's a specific bin to put this material. I think that is the way we need to go with the diapers and with the sanitary pads, that we actually need to separate, because actually to be able to treat them is actually still very expensive. But I can assure you that there's discussions which are going on. It's an emerging issue in waste management. And I really don't want to talk about it much more, just that for now, the best thing is actually to separate those fractions so that they can be better collected and treated.
So as it stands, there's no solid policy on the end product responsibility, the EPR that he was talking about?
For right now, we have not started implementing that.
It's not there?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But it is work in progress?
It is work in progress, Trevor.
Okay. Yeah. Next question was from Peter.
I think
circular economy.
Yes, I think the issue of circular economy not being recognized by Labour Ministry, I don't think that is very true. As I said, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda has a whole chapter on sustainable waste, and the whole of circularity in government, even in business, it is captured in the bottom-up economic agenda. I think because our offices are actually very near, and you're very near, we are with me in Mombasa, probably you can come to offices, we will guide you, and we'll actually even work with you to Labour Ministry to see what challenges that you're facing. And in terms of, Trevor, the resource recovery or people making products which are not certified, I would just encourage everybody that there's really no problem of certification of your product. If you come to NEMA or if you go to KEBS, they'll be able to certify this thing for you at a very low cost.
But I think their concern is the rigors of it all. How long does it take for certification of products made out of recycled material?
Yeah, I think, Trevor, as with all goods and products, the certification process is more rigorous if the more it has the potential to cause harm. But we have seen recyclables like they're doing for Kilifi, the flip-floppy project boats. Those are very innovative things that we know it has come from an inert material and probably will not harm an individual. So the certification process is much quicker, rather than when you try maybe to certify a product for human consumption. That becomes a bit difficult.
Okay. Let's come to Dr. Hatimi Boss. There's a few segregation bins. In fact, they say they want more of them in crowded places, not just next to the DG's office. Yes.
Bwana DG, can I throw that to you?
But you're the one who...
Because it was mentioned, you have a segregation bin at your...
But they want you as boss to increase and have more bins. So you want to pass it to the DG. No, go ahead.
Yes, so the Bolstaka segregation bins were just donated to schools, and we donated them to the community so that we can train them on plastic waste segregation. And the one at the DG was donated as a prototype to see whether it will actually be able to handle the amount of waste and with the weather changes. Otherwise, it's actually up to the county government, I guess, to give us the segregation bins, not Bolstaka as a private sector.
Okay. All right.
But I'd like to offer segregation bins to you.
Okay. All right, DG, you have the bulk of the question.
I think there are quite a number. There was the issue of the electric tuk-tuks.
Yes.
The tuk-tuks. I want to tell my brother, I don't believe everybody wants to be a hand-cut pusher forever. I don't think so. People want their business to upscale. And part of the upscaling is moving up the chain. So I believe it's not a bad idea to move away from a hand-cut to a tuk-tuk.
Yeah.
Kesho atamove kutoka kwa tuk-tuk aende kwa lori, and eventually atakuwa na compactor. Okay. So I think let's agree that we are appreciating the value the waste pickers are doing, and I think it's important to start looking at how best do we improve on their working conditions.
But is it possible to have both so that you're not doing away with the hand cuts? You're formalizing the hand cut sector and also having a few tuk-tuks so that they collaborate.
Definitely, Trevor, we are not going to wake up one morning and give everybody tuk-tuk. It can't happen. The government doesn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
It's going to be a phased approach that we are going to organize groups first, see those that have a capacity and the appetite to take. Those are the ones that we are going to start rolling out slowly. So it's not something that we believe that we'll do one day.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
All right.
On the issue of the collection point, when we were elected into office, Trevor, you will remember that Mombasa and Kakamega were the last counties that went to election. And we came into office sometimes in September 2022. By the time we were coming into office, Mombasa had closely to about 50 to 60 illegal dump sites across. Waste was all over. So the first thing we did, because we could not manage, we began an exercise of closing all those illegal dumps. Mombasa today is clean, not because of anything. It is because we decided to close all the illegal collection points that were there. And for the waste collectors who are here, they need to be aware that for you to set up a collection point, it must be approved by NEMA. NEMA have to approve it. It's not just you're working one morning and you're saying, oh, here is a collection point. There's a requirement because a waste collection point is where you bring waste. And this could cause a lot of nuisance to the public. Currently, we're having a lot of problems, Trevor. I can tell you. We have several locations where members of the public are asking, and schools and churches asking us to close those collection points. And the idea is, it is discouraged to have collection point. Waste is supposed to be carried as it's taken out of the household. It's not supposed to be kept anywhere. So I will really be encouraging the people of Mombasa that let's not go to this mind that you want to put up as many collection points, because as you put more, you're exposing people to health risks, and you're exposing people to a potential danger of contracting disease.
Okay.
There was an issue about
Landlord's responsibility.
Landlord's responsibility, the law is clear. I don't want to speak more. I'll encourage my brother to go and look at the Mombasa Solid Waste Management Act. It's clear on the responsibility of everyone. In fact, there's a cost for every household to pay for your waste to be collected. On the issue of venturing into organic waste, things like black soldier fly, yes, we are encouraging. But again, that again has to be approved by NEMA. You are not just going to start those activities because normally when you start a place where you are breeding these black soldier flies, there is always a very bad smell that comes out of the food waste that you bring. And nobody will want to see such things mushrooming within our neighborhoods. So that's all I'll say. On the issue of flocker, there was somebody who talked about the George, about the issue of flocker. Mombasa was among the last county. Mombasa and Nairobi. These are peculiar urban counties that initially had been left out of flocker. They were left out of flocker, and there's a reason why they were left out of flocker. I think I will ask my brother to go and research further. But for the audience, I need to...
They say you are not compliant with the regulations that they require. They needed you to have a policy, financing locally led climate action program, which is FLOCA that you're talking about.
Yes.
You are among the last counties to comply.
So most of the counties didn't want to get into it, particularly the urban counties, because we were being asked to put a certain amount of money, 2%, for an investment that you are not too sure whether it will come. There is no way you are going to lock your money somewhere and you are not too sure that money is going to come. So most of the counties were reluctant initially, the urban counties, because take, for example, Nairobi and Mombasa, which have large budgets. I mean, large annual budgets. If you are to set aside 2%, you can imagine how much it is, and you are putting it somewhere, and you are not too sure whether that investment will come.
But now the money is here. In fact, some counties have started benefiting already.
We have worked on a policy. We have passed it at the county assembly. We are now eligible to the first tranche. I remember I was speaking to Waziri, who I know is inside here, and she was telling me that initially we were told, and these are the games, initially we were told that we were eligible for 33 million, only to be told that now the money has reduced to 11 million. So these are the things I keep telling you, that some of these things you are told, and then in reality it's something else. You've kept money there, and then it doesn't come. So, yes, the FLOCA money we have been promised is coming, so let's hope it will come 33. But from what I've been told, it is 11 million. But again, you need to come up with some of the projects that I believe have sort of like an investment option. Something where you really think you can be able to upscale. Because I don't think most of this program you will just want to spend money on just a community project that has no capacity to be sustainable into the future. Because I believe my thinking would be we open this issue of waste to the private sector. Trevor, I repeat again as I conclude. All over the world. I went to Sweden just some 2 months back. I never saw the government collecting waste.
It's purely
waste
private.
It's purely private. It is only here in Africa that you see governments are the one now running with this business. It is not the business of government to be in the waste sector. The moment we allow the private sector to come, we'll be seeing more opportunities around it.
Are you concerned that you're running out of land for dumping, which is what Rocky had raised?
No, what you have in Makirunga, I think that is land belonging to county. The 54-acre piece of land which we have is belonging to the county, and we have a title. Two, whoever you're having there have these are just the scavengers, people who come to scavenge, because we are bringing mixed waste there. So there are people who go out there to pick recyclables, which are there. So they have put up temporary shelter there where they collect this recyclable. And around the dump site, there are aggregators who buy.
Okay.
So there are people who are living out of it. So I don't think we would want to literally remove those fellows because they're earning a living. If we remove them there today, the people of Makirunge will not be safe.
But Rocky also was concerned that your own garbage collectors don't segregate. So if you're going to have a monkey see, monkey do sort of business, you are not leading at the front by segregating the garbage.
I want to say this, Trevor. What we do, we clean the streets. We clean the streets, and the waste we are bringing ile imetupwa na wananchi. Sisi tulitupa. The waste that you see in the streets is waste that has been brought to the house, dumped there. So we only collect it and put it on a truck. We will not be able to segregate it at that stage because in the first instance, it came from the household. So the prudent thing for us is to collect it, bring it all the way to Makirunge. And that's why I've said for me, Trevor, the moment we sort out the issue of segregation of waste at source,
yeah,
there'll be nothing in the streets for us to pick.
Okay.
The country will have nothing to pick.
All right.
Because everything will be picked from the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Felix, I'd like to hear your views on all these issues that have been raised and what you think the way forward should be. Then I'll give the audience just a chance for only 2 final questions because we've really run out of time here. And then I'll come to my guest for closing remarks. Yes.
Well, I think it has come out very clear that, government, the population is expecting government to do quite a lot, and the DG has come out very clearly, speaking about the role of the private sector in this, in this value chain of waste. I think for me, my thoughts are that number one, that the government, whether national or counties, law is facilitative, just to create a very enabling environment for the private sector to be able to come and support in waste, from collection, aggregation, and processing, so to speak. And I think for us is, as the SWIFT program, we are quite privileged to be able to partner with the county government of Mombasa to support them to provide that facilitative law and to create that enabling environment for the private sector to be able to tap into the emerging opportunities across the waste management ecosystem. So I think when you look at, when you see the kind of questions which have really emerged in this discussion, is about what can the government do? And I like what the DG said, it's now the other way around. What can the private sector do? But of course, for them to be able to do and tap into the emerging opportunities, then they also need to be able to pray and create an infrastructure for the private sector to be able to thrive and support them in terms of waste, management and adding value to that waste.
Okay.
So I think for us is how can we partner, how can we support the county, and also how can we be able to mobilize resources and support the private sector so they can be able to partner and make good products for them to be sold to the public. So to speak.
We only have 5 minutes to close. I'll only take 2 comments here. I know there are many hands, but if you have the microphone, you're lucky. I'll only have 1 and 2, and that's it. And then I'll come to the closing remarks. Yes.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I would like to ask some few questions before I comment.
Just 1.
1. Okay, thank you. I've heard the DG speaking about the Makirunge dam site.
Okay.
And as I am an active citizen, I checked on the ADP of 2023-2024, and then I saw the allocation of 100 million for compacting the dam site, and also making sure that the groundwater contamination is contained through the leachate control.
Okay.
And then this financial year that has started, 24-25, there was also a plan of maintaining the Makirunge landfill, which had the aim of expanding it to, which was estimated to cost 120 million by the county government.
Yeah.
The problem with Mombasa has been on the financial prudence and also the financial just management and the frugality of our resources. Bwana Governor, I would like you to promise us that, Bwana Deputy Governor, that the allocations for the last financial year and this financial year will help and make a standard Makirunge dam site that will have less complaints with the communities around.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. We're really running out of time. I didn't mean to cut you short. Yes, back there.
Yes.
Very fast.
Okay. My name is John Paul Obonyo from Hakiet Organization. My concern is Mombasa County CIDP states that we have 907 settlements. how practical is it that we can begin the process of sensitizing? An offer that we have as a K2 to the department, to Baustaka and NEMA, we are offering a solution that to begin with sensitization, we'll invite you and partner with you and invite you to Miritini ward and at least come and sensitize the public. We'll mobilize, let NEMA, the department and Baustaka come, but we'll share that knowledge so that it's practical. Because 907 settlements in Mombasa County, we need to begin from somewhere. Thank you.
How many settlements did you say?
Come again?
How many settlements did you say? From
How many
the County
settlements?
Integrated Development Plan? 900. 907.
And 7 settlements in the CIDP.
Okay.
But at least we'll begin with one settlement in Miritini.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll start with closing remarks. Governor, you'll be the last one to say, Deputy Governor. Samuel, I'll start with you. Closing remarks. In this entire conversation, what is the take home for you?
I think, Trevor, most what I've gotten is that we need to have value chain for the waste pickers. I have listened and I have actually experienced that there are some people who have worked in this business for 10 years. But what they are doing is just actually what the county is doing, is collecting that waste and taking it to a big recycler. They do not have any validation within themselves.
Okay.
So that is why we really hoping that they are able to get some sort of funding to do rudimentary things, like the people who are collecting plastic. Do they have crushers? Or can they use the MRFs for the county government? Use that for free, then collect their goods and go. Okay. So that to me is by take home, and just have them into units, formal units of SMEs, so that my friend here can give them money quite easily and they'll be able to account, and many other donors and government. So thank you, Trevor.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hatimi.
Yes, my takeaway is that Baustaka needs to share our best practices in sustainable waste management, and we are open to collaborating with the youth groups and the community-based organizations so that we can share our best practices and they can implement them in their respective organizations.
All right. Felix, your closing remarks?
Yeah, so mine is to really appreciate the people of Mombasa who have come out very openly and clearly and spoken to one another. Of course, of concern is their concerns that they are put across the DG and also to the government agency NEMA. But also, I think it has also come out very clear that, we need each other. We need to partner. We need to empower each other. Information is very critical in terms of empowering the whole ecosystem to be able to function. And so for us, as a SWIFT program, we are looking forward to really working with the partners, NEMA, the private sector, the county government of Mombasa, to ensure that at least in the next 1 year, we have been able to support as many actors in that ecosystem as we can for them to be able to resolve the emerging issues in the waste management ecosystem. Thank you, Trevor.
All right, DG, there was a reference to the ADP, the Annual Development Plan, that has 100 million shillings there. Is this an issue of, is it a lack of resources or resources mismanagement? Which one is the problem?
I'll start by saying that I think sometimes it's good to read carefully between the lines. I think whatever the fellow was making reference to, maybe he didn't understand what it was. The 100 million you're talking about, we are buying compactors. We are buying compactors this financial year, 5 of them. And this is basically to enable us continue collecting waste within the county of Mombasa. Compactors are the right equipment to collect waste, as opposed to the trucks we have. Yeah. So the 100 million you are seeing there is to buy compactors. 1. 2, we have continuously, and I want you to be fair, I have been to Mwakirunge. In fact, today when I came here, I was in Mwakirunge. If there is any government that has made practical steps to try and address the problem, is this government. Currently, we are hiring equipments to push all the waste in Mwakirunge. We have already embarked on putting up a perimeter wall there. I hope you would have seen there's a perimeter wall there. We've started putting up some roads into the dump site, and this is to enable us access the dump site easier. So there are quite a lot of things that are being done at the Mwakirunge dump site, and the NEMA can confirm, because most of these things we are doing, we always inform NEMA.
Okay.
But as a parting shot, I want to say one thing. It will get to that point one day. Government is going to get out of this waste business. Yeah. It will. Because this is now a bigger headache for government, and government can no longer continue to take responsibilities where they think this is an opportunity for the private sector. We are seeing there is an opportunity for the private sector, and we are going to open up that space. Okay. So my take would be, we are going to work together with most of the partners. It is not going to be immediate. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of discussions across. But for me, government is already setting the levers to open up this space, and we are welcoming the private sector to come in and take over.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very mumuch for making time this evening. His Excellency Francis Toye, Deputy Governor, CEC Environment and Governance, Felix Magaju, Director Programs, KCIC, Dr. Taiba Hatimi, Founder and CEO, Bostaka, and Samuel Lopokoyet, NEMA County Director of Environment. Thank you all for making time this evening, and special thanks to the Mombasa County for hosting us here at the Tononoka Social Hall. And thank you to all our audience for being an amazing, inquisitive, and very reactive audience. Thank you so much for making time this evening. On behalf of everybody else who made this possible, we say good night and God bless. My name is Trevor Ombija. Bye for now.